Hello and good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever you are. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, and I'm joining you from Livestream.travel and eTurbo News in Honolulu, Hawaii. This week, we're celebrating the opening and launch events for the World Tourism Network. World Tourism Network emerged out of the Rebuilding.travel initiative we had been hosting since March of this year in response to COVID-19. We had a number of really good events in December. You find them already archived and can listen to it anytime, or if you read eTurbo News, you will also sporadically see them on all our pages playing. There are more events coming up. You can simply go to WTN.travel, click on the upcoming event page or on the blue banner for our lounge, and you'll be able to sign up. Today, we're going to the UK, and we'll hear from Benjamin Carey about international recovery through local regenerations. And before I give the microphone to Benjamin, I wanted to introduce my partner and co-founder of World Tourism Network. He's joining us from Texas, Dr. Peter Tarlow. And Peter then will introduce Benjamin. Good morning, Peter. Your microphone is off.
Good morning, Hawaii. Good afternoon from Texas, and good evening to Europe. This is, I'm sure, will be a really fascinating subject. I think we're all going to be interested in regeneration, and this has been a time when we all need to do it. Just prior to our conversation, Benjamin was saying to me that with all the shutdowns again, it's a little bit depressing, and I understand that. I drove about a week ago to Washington, D.C., and so one restaurant after another closed. And so this is really an important topic for us all. I know it'll be not only in live broadcast, but it'll be broadcast throughout the month. And really it's a chance for all of us can learn. So this is a great experience for us. And I don't want to take any of Benjamin's time. So I'm going to turn it over to Benjamin. You're on, sir.
Thank you very much, Jürgen and Peter, for inviting us to do this panel this evening. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This has been an awful year for everyone in tourism, as everyone here knows. But what I think has been exciting is that there's been an opportunity for people to really rethink what they're doing, to look at their strategy. I remember when I was a tour operator years ago, people said that tourism would be so easy if there weren't these annoying tourists coming along. It's a real time when we can sort of sit back, and as long as we have been able to survive this torrid time, there's an opportunity to think about what we can do differently. And many destinations have tried to duplicate what other destinations have done, and they thought, that's working well there, and let's do the same. And I think it's a reminder that actually, what have we got to offer? I've been working over the last 9 months in destinations all around the world. I've been working in North America, in sub-Saharan Africa, all around the Mediterranean, in East Asia, South Asia. And what everyone says is that they want to know, how can they be different? And what I say to them is, well, don't copy anyone. You need to focus on what you have in your own community, in your own destination. Celebrate your heritage. And that means not producing what you think visitors might want. It might be hamburgers or pizza or this international fare, but actually celebrate what is your local gastronomic heritage. What are the stories? For visitors, what is it that's going to make your destination distinctive, memorable compared to all the other destinations in the world? I think city breaks are going to have a tough time the next couple of years. People aren't going to go off for their short break to the city or that place which might be okay, might be interesting, and might not be. People are going to be traveling increasingly with purpose. They're going to be seeking places that are different, distinctive, memorable, where they can really have encounters with the local heritage, local people and experience, local crafts, local everything. Because they want to if they're going to tolerate all the inconvenience of travel, it will be harder to travel through flights and vaccinations and all the tests. People want to know it's got to be worth it to make that trip. So when they get to their destination, they want to make sure maybe they will stay longer, maybe they will spend more money. But what they need to do is make sure that they are buying local. They are meeting local people, not this sort of international, what you can get anywhere. So I think talking to destinations around the world over the last 9 months, there was a huge opportunity to focus on the local, the authentic. The last few days, I've been talking to a couple of colleagues, Nada and Ahmed. Nada is in Lebanon, Ahmed is in Egypt, and they've both been working with local destinations for a long time, and they've for a long time recognised the importance of local in promoting tourism. And what I've asked them to do for us tonight is just tell a little bit of their story of why they are working with local, why they've already recognized that local is the answer to promoting a tourism destination. Why is local used to make a tourism destination distinctive? And then we'll get into more of a conversation. But I want to go over first to Nada. Nada, tell us a bit more about your local tourism products in Lebanon. Nada.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Benjamin. Well, Lebanon, oh my God. I think that this year was quite a year, I think, for everyone, but for us especially, because yes, there's the COVID-19, but there were also major changes in the country. So we had economical crisis. We had a major blast in Beirut, and the Lebanese pound is actually collapsing completely, which is a good news actually for tourists, but not for us, because now the destination, Lebanon as a destination, is much, much, much cheaper. So you should come all here. So this is one thing. Now, for us, why do we think local, and why for us local is important? Because first of all, we are a social enterprise. Our aim and our dream is actually for everyone to live by, for, with, through tourism. So we want actually every region in Lebanon to benefit from tourism. This is one. Two, our motto is very simple. We tell people, you come as a traveler, you live as a local, and you leave as a friend. And we want you actually to live as a friend, and then we actually stay in contact. And we build bridges, because this is at the end of the day, like, we like to travel. So when we decided to create Tourleb, our aim was to actually make people travel in Lebanon like we travel abroad. So going to actually find the people, meet the people, and understand the culture, not only just, have a bucket list and go visit the bucket list sites and all that, but really to go and understand the culture. So for us, it's very important for people who come here to meet with us, to meet and to enjoy their time, right? To have an experience. Now, our biggest challenge actually is because Lebanon is not on the international map, because I'm pretty sure everyone hears about Lebanon when it comes to war, but nobody hears about Lebanon when it comes to come and visit Lebanon, because we have 6,000 years of history, because the mountain and the sea are so close, because we have amazing food that I'm not sure. I'm sure everyone heard about the food in Lebanon, but food and war, but not all the rest. So we're trying to put Lebanon on the map and tell people you can come, you can enjoy actually Lebanon and have quite a different experience. How? Yes, there is food, but there are tons of people who have amazing ideas all over the countries. They can share with you so many things. For example, a lot of people don't know they can do canyoning, caving, they can do trekking, hiking in Lebanon, swimming, diving. All this is available in Lebanon. But if you're not someone who likes sports and outdoor, there are crafts. There are a lot of artisans. There are so many ideas that actually people can do in Lebanon. And for people who love history, you have history, you have Roman temples, you can talk about Phoenicians, you can talk about so much history. So you can combine a trip and be here joy, or experience only a local experience. So staying, spending time with villagers, understanding the different culture. You know that even food in this small little country is different from the north to the south. And then you can understand how to make just a simple plate differently from the north to the south. And everything goes with the story and with the culture. Yes, it is not easy. It is not easy to work in an environment that is not well perceived by people. This is one. Two, that is not always safe, because I also tell people, if you're waiting for Lebanon to be 100% safe, you will never come to Lebanon. But you can be part of the adventure. What did we do this year? This year, we started the year with a revolution, a major revolution, and we had buses of tourists coming from Belgium, from France, from the States, from Canada. And what was amazing, actually, is that we made them sense what was the revolution viewed by people. So they lived the revolution with people. And on the same time, we had tours, so we had to live an adventure, taking the bus through small buses, through different checkpoints of people, stopping everyone because they want to say something, and people just loved it. The adventure was just amazing. Even for us, it was new because we had to improvise every second. We had to improvise and change plans every second, and we still get emails from people telling us, when you have a second revolution, call us, we want to come and live the revolution in Lebanon. So, which is also something we try to take and we try to live. The second challenge, of course, the COVID-19 is not something that is easy, especially when you have cities in Lebanon that are really crowded, and you have souks in Lebanon where you can do a lot of, you can buy a lot of, crafts and meet a lot of people. When it's very crowded, how do you manage to be there at the same time? And how do you convince people to wear the mask, which is also another challenge in itself, because in the Arab culture, wearing a mask is not something that people like, right? So, so this also is a challenge, but we're overcoming it every day. Tomorrow I have a tour in Tripoli. I have 25 people coming with us to Tripoli, even though Tripoli is the second biggest city in Lebanon. That people think that it's very dangerous, but it's not actually. It's just a beautiful city, one of my favorites actually. So we're going to meet artisans. We're not staying in the crowded places, but we're going inside the houses, the old houses, meeting the artisans, learning more about their crafts. And because it's Christmas next week, so people can actually buy locals. So we try also to push people to buy local and to try to give a push to all these locals and artisans at the same time. And we also had something that was terrible this year. We lived the blast. We had a major blast in Beirut on August 4th. And it was so heartbreaking. And us as a small company, we actually were touring with tourists, French tourists, we were actually in the Bekaa Valley, so we were 40 minutes away from the blast. And then what we had to do during the blast is, one, try to support the clients or the tourists and tell them everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be okay. Don't worry, you're with us, you're safe, etc., etc. And on the same time, we had to split. So one of us had to continue the tour throughout the 5 days, and one of us went down to Beirut to help out all the tourists we had in Beirut, and all the people who had, their houses destroyed and everything, and rebuilt and leave all that. So this was also a huge challenge for us. The tourists who were here left a week after the blast and came back a month ago because they loved the experience they had with us, because, it's kind of an adventure, because a blast can happen anywhere, in France, in London, it's happening everywhere. So it's not something that in the States, in Canada, and anywhere it can happen. So how to actually live through all that and, make sure that people leave here with an amazing experience. And this is also a huge challenge with having. Now, on a daily basis, what we're trying to do and we're continuing our activities. We're helping out the locals on a daily basis. We created projects to actually support all the locals here. And we are getting a lot of people coming in Lebanon, because I think that for Americans, for example, it's the airport is open for Americans. So we're getting a lot of Americans in the country. And we're trying to make them really live Lebanon, not just, just visit or all that. So, so we're doing a lot of outdoor activities. We're doing a lot of history. We're doing a lot of crafts and artisan, and we're focusing a lot on locals and their products, because they really need us today. They need us today, because if all these locals and artisans stop working, we can say bye to tourism. Because for us, tourism is through the local. The heart of tourism is local, is the locals. Now, there are two words for locals for me. You have the locals viewed by the locals. How do you do local tourism for locals living inside Lebanon? Like for us, for example, a lot of Lebanese people don't know Lebanon. So we are opening up to local tourism here, so that people can live different experiences differently. This is the locals for locals, off the beaten track stuff, etc. But for a tourist that comes to Lebanon, everything is local for them, because they're already living something different. So everything is local. But how to choose in the places, for example, what we do is we try to assess in a location, for example, let's say something on the bucket list in Lebanon would be the Roman temples of Baalbek. Everyone wants to come and visit the Roman temple in Baalbek. Yes. So when we go to Baalbek, we try to assess on the field which restaurants are working well and which restaurants are not working well. And then we try to push the restaurants that are not working well, if they're good, of course. We tried them all before. So this is also a way for us to always assess, always be on the field, and always try to understand the different regions, so that there is a bit of stability, and so that you have all the projects work at the same time, at the same level. So it's an ongoing job. It's an ongoing job for us. We go back on the field every week, every day, and we try to assess what's working and what's not working, and trying to assess the different levels. Are they going well? Is the food still good? What do they need, etc. on a daily basis. So this is a bit about us, what we're trying to do here. And if you have any questions.
So thank you very much. We're going to come back to questions afterwards. It's very frustrating hearing about Lebanon from a distance. I've been visiting Lebanon since 2005, and I spent about 3 months in the south of Lebanon, Hasbaya, Majayoun, and it is one of my favorite countries. And what is so memorable about Lebanon is the local distinctiveness, and every village, every town in Lebanon is completely different, with different stories, different religions, different culture, but particularly different food and people. And it is a remarkable destination. Lebanon is probably the epitome of a country that is used to disruption. And COVID is just another disruption on the history of tourism in Lebanon. And I feel incredibly confident that because of that, and because Lebanon is so good at connecting with its local identity and local heritage, it probably will bounce back quite quickly. Unfortunately, not enough people are visiting Lebanon, but they will. It understands local. Turning to Egypt, I'm going to move over to Ahmed Yahia. And Ahmed has been working in Egypt, where there's been tourism for at least 5,000 years. But what's so interesting about Ahmed's story is he went and looked at some heritage which was arguably slightly forgotten, the Nubian heritage of Egypt, of Upper Egypt. And he came and really, I think, as an outsider from Nubia, to sort of say, why don't you celebrate your local heritage? This is much more marketable. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask Ahmed to talk a little bit more about what are you doing to use your local heritage in Nubia to help with the international recovery and help Upper Egypt come back from this utter crisis. Ahmed, over to you.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Hello, everybody from Egypt and Ecologia. So we, in the beginning, I came from a corporate background, so I wasn't working in the tourism before, mainly marketing strategies and things like that. So when I studied the master degree that is called Cultural Heritage Management, it introduced me to the concept of ecotourism. That later on transferred to be sustainable tourism, with the focus on the 17 SDGs of the UN. So studying sustainable tourism and ecotourism, I found there is a huge opportunity in Egypt to move it from a mass tourism country depending on sun and sea and historical tourism to the temples and the monuments, to especially that heritage in Egypt goes beyond thousands of years in different areas, like south of Egypt has a heritage, north of Egypt, east, west, and so on. So the Nubian heritage is very rich, and I thought let's introduce this Nubian heritage with the principles of sustainable tourism that I studied in the master degree. So the main principles of sustainable tourism is to save nature and to protect it, and also to work with local community and introduce their heritage. So this is what I try to convince the Nubian to do, is to introduce their heritage in a respectable way and to celebrate their rich of heritage thing. The challenge I faced in the beginning doing that is people were not convinced in Nubia that their heritage will be interesting for others to celebrate. So I told them, let's try. Let's do a trial first and see how it goes. When we did the trial by opening the restaurant that introduced only Nubian cuisine, the Nubians themselves got shocked of the feedback received by the tourists, how amazing the food is, how interesting the experience, the whole experience is. And then we moved to rebuild old Nubian houses and convert it into accommodation facility. And the Nubians were not convinced that people will stay in a mud house designed by the Nubian architects, built with local material like rocks and mud. And I told them, let's try. So when we tried, they got another shock of the feedback received by tourists. And we did all this by not selling the heritage in a cheap way. We are considered as a premium price in Aswan city, which is south of Egypt. So after doing that, the local community of the Nubians start to believe that their heritage means money. They can charge their heritage with a good amount of money that go back to the community to develop it. And I think this is the essence of the sustainable tourism, is to involve local community in order to develop them financially by receiving a good amount of money as a reward for their services, and to develop them psychologically, to be proud of their heritage, to think that their heritage is an accumulation of many experiences of their ancestors that was perfect to introduce. So this is what we do at Econubia right now, is we introduce the different aspect of Nubian heritage, whether it's food, accommodation and architecture, music, customs, language. The Nubians have their own language that goes back to the ancient Egyptians. They coexisted with the ancient Egyptian, or what we used to call them pharaohs. So all this give them a valuable position in promoting tourism to their destination. On the other side, from the tourism side, our guests are so happy with the experience because they never thought they can receive such an authentic experience, and they didn't know that it does exist. So when they tried it, they loved it. and they keep coming and coming back again. I think there are two kinds of tourism globally now. The tourism that is affected by globalization, like standards everywhere. So the tourist would like to stay in a hotel with the same services and the same quality wherever he is. So he would like to see the five-star hotel in Egypt, like in India, like in Taiwan, like in the States, like in UK. And this is part of the globalization, that you receive the same service wherever you are. And many people like this way of tourism. But on the other side, we have a huge amount of tourists who would like to try an authentic experience based on the territory that he's visiting. And for example, in Egypt, you can receive many experiences. Nubian is one of them. You can receive a Bedouin experience in Sinai. You can receive agriculture or farming experience in north of Egypt. So this turns the country into many experiences. And I'm sure there are lots of customers seeking these kinds of experience, interacting with the local community. Currently, the locals of Nubia are so happy with what's happening in their territory. We are having people who are copying our model in Nubia by the local community. So the local communities start to be SMEs, building lodges, building restaurants, because now they see the success that's happening, and we are encouraging them to do that, because together we can change the whole Nubia area to be something fascinating. One of the things that I keep insisting in telling them, in our sustainable tourism thing, there is nothing called customer is always right. You have your own traditions, you have your own beliefs, you have your own value system, and the customer comes with his value system and his beliefs and his tradition. We need to reach a middle ground between his value system and your value system. And it's based on respect. The client have to respect the local community in order for the local community to respect the client. And this is where we can have a premium experience with a premium service. So this is our role in Nubia to as a facilitator of sustainable tourism, and we would like to copy it anywhere else in the world in the future. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. What's exciting about this time that we're going through is that it really is generating a lot of real innovation. I mean, what Ahmed was saying about the different experiences of the same place, I think is really important, because a lot of destinations are realizing that, yes, they have their heritage, yes, they have their assets, but they can package themselves in so many different ways to different customers. One of the really interesting segments at the moment is people who are remote working, and countries like Bhutan, South Africa, so many countries around the world are giving visas, not for tourists who want to come on a short break or 1 or 2 weeks or go on safari or go trekking, to come and live in a country for 2 months, 3 months. And as long as you have an internet connection, then you don't have to be in New York, London, Moscow, anywhere. You can be somewhere where you're eating wonderful local food, looking at amazing local scenery, beautiful scenery out of your window, contributing to the local economy from places that have been decimated by the COVID pandemic, and enjoying the local experience, living as a local. So this is real innovation. I've known Severin for I think about a year now, and we've been working together and discussing a lot about regenerating tourism. It's all come about through the experience of this pandemic. And Severin has a particular interest in regenerating tourism and innovation. She works as a coach and a consultant. And what I'm going to ask her is, how Severine, can we encourage other destinations to think about the way that they are marketing themselves as local and distinctive destinations? How do you ensure that destinations are promoting their local distinctiveness and local identity so that tourism makes a real contribution to the communities that live there? So, Severine.
So hello, Benjamin, and hello, everyone. Yes, let's talk about the necessity. You were talking about the necessity for marketing. Well, actually, you didn't use the word necessity. It's myself that I use the word necessity because it's not really a choice. But at the moment, it's a matter of survival, and it's a matter as well to actually being able to, to promote choice and experiences to the new travelers. Okay, so it's really about getting out of the comfort zone. You introduced me as a coach and a consultant. And yeah, what I do is I help people basically think differently, either in terms of leadership or in terms of organization or in terms of any sort of association. I've been working quite a few with association as well lately. So it's all about thinking differently. In terms of the tourism aspect, which we've been having like long discussions in the last few months, and I started this project called Regenerating Tourism. It's all about really finding a new way to build things in a different in a way which is better. Okay, so what does it mean to be better? Well, it's got to be more effective and bring more results, first of all, for all the main stakeholders. Okay, so the main stakeholders, who are they? I mean, if we're talking of destinations, so certainly there needs to be what it is, an increase in terms of the value, but as well how the value, the income that comes from tourism, how this impact is spread within the local community. Because of course there has been loads of job losses, and so a focus on to regaining some of that via a different way of investment is certainly a good way. So what about so regenerating tourism really is about focusing on the local community, and as we focus on the local community, there is opportunity, and a big opportunity in terms of being able to go in and highlight what is the authenticity of a destination. And what is very interesting, as Ahmed was mentioning, is that very often when someone lives somewhere, there is very little appreciation for what is there. And that's one of the biggest barrier, and that's one of the barriers as well of the comfort zone. That in terms of innovation, it's one of the barriers. Like when you go into an organization, the implementing change is always something that needs to be stepped, and it's something that needs to have a lot of vision and a lot of leadership drive in order for it to be implemented. So regenerating tourism is about building better, and working with with good examples as Ahmed, as Nada, and creating destination which provide more choice to the traveler. Because it was rightly mentioned that there is, yes, a request for more authenticity, but there is also people that not necessarily will request that authenticity. So it's not about going and completely change the old model, but it's going to offer a solution which is actually really sustainable for the future, for from an environment point of view, from a perception point of view, and as well from an economical point of view for the destination and the tourist. So yeah, so that's it. So thank you very much, Benjamin, and everyone else.
Thank you very much, Severine. I have some questions I'd like to ask you. If anyone wants to sort of chip in with additional questions, please do. But I'd like to start with the question to Nada, and let me try and spotlight you, or maybe Jürgen will. But Nada, you mentioned that you're a social enterprise. I do think social enterprises and cooperative models are very, very effective when working with community-based tourism. Can you explain a bit more about how you think a social enterprise is going to make the recovery of tourism in Lebanon that much quicker, that much more effective?
Well, being a social enterprise, first of all, as a social enterprise, because we redistribute money in, let's say, evenly, or I would say not only evenly, but we try to assess which region need more highlight and need more help. So we try to focus on the region that need more help. This is one. As a social enterprise, how does the recovery will go faster, actually? Because first of all, we're creating a lot of jobs. We're creating a lot of opportunities to people. We are highlighting the people who need a bit of help and highlight. We work a lot through local partners. So we have loads of local partners. Sometimes there are other tour operators that are struggling to just, get here. We have, local businesses. All these people, we try to meet with them and see how can we help. So on a longer term, I think that we are creating a community within a community. And then we are creating this community where people will actually help each others, to overcome, especially this horrible situation. It's been a couple of years in Lebanon. The situation is ups and downs all the time. So the thing is to try to assess the diverse partners in the diverse areas. And then when the tourism, when people come, it could be local tourism, as I said, so people from the inside, just, traveling outside of, like you're saying, Severine, outside of their comfort zone. Because you mentioned something very important, Benjamin, I didn't talk about. Of course, there is the multi-confession system in Lebanon. So you have so many different rites and religions. You also have so many different cultures. And because we had a lot of, different wars and all that, and people hear a lot of different things. So we try to connect people together. So sometimes it's difficult for two cultures, even in the same country, to meet and to try to work together. So doing this as a social enterprise, we are creating bridges inside the country and outside of the country, trying to bridge people from the Lebanese diasporas outside. You have loads of Lebanese everywhere in the world, of course, but you also have a lot of tourists who are interested to come to Lebanon, but who are afraid to come to Lebanon. So when they call us from Canada, the States, Brazil, Australia, or whatever, and they ask us a lot of questions, I think they are more confident to know that we work with all these people and that they're gonna have different experiences with all these locals. And when they're gonna come to Lebanon, they're not gonna come just to visit their bucket list, but really meet the people and help out the people here living here. So it really creates bridges. And as a social enterprise too, the fact that we are always on the field, always meeting the people, always doing the job on the field, it creates an impact also for the tourist. Example, we shoot a lot of videos in every region we go to. For example, we have this YouTube channel where on every outing we have small videos of a minute where people can actually see where we're going, who we're meeting, etc., etc. So it gives impact to the artisans and the people in the region, and the tourists are interested to come and meet them too. So as a social enterprise, it helps a lot. And during the blast, and I'm gonna give this as an example, because during the blast in Beirut, something that happened that touched us a lot. We had hundreds of tourists that came sometimes just for half an hour for a tour with us for half an hour or 4 hours in Beirut, or people that we just met, you know, in a bus, or we just, you know, talked to. We had them, for example, find their way in a city or something. They called us and they told us, how can we help? And when they saw that we were actually rebuilding houses and trying to help all the artisans across Lebanon, they were more and more interested. And they were like, can we come and help on the field? So some of them came on the field to help. Some of them we had to redirect to different NGOs to actually help people on the field. So it creates loads of opportunities. It creates loads of bridges.
Thank you so much, Nada. I mean, tourism is human, and that's what's so exciting about it, and why people engage when they have a local encounter, when they feel that they are part of the family, and they aren't just a number or a commodity for a destination to count. I'd like to come next to Ahmed. I take an approach as a consultant, I take a Socratic approach. The philosopher Socrates described himself as a midwife. And when I work as a consultant, I've worked in over 50 countries. What I always talk about with destinations is I want to make myself redundant as quickly as possible. I want to work with you to sort of bring your ideas, your knowledge out into the open. I want to help you market your destination and your local distinctiveness to the markets all over the world. But I want to make myself redundant because ultimately it's your baby. So my question to Ahmed is, you're Egyptian, but you're not Nubian. And I'm interested in, how do you make sure that you're building local capacity and are making yourself redundant as quickly as possible? Ahmed.
Thank you, Benjamin. So that was a challenge in the beginning when I started the project. I thought I will need to do lots of training. So I start searching for training facilities that can provide such training for the local community. Unfortunately, I didn't find in Egypt a facility that provide training for the local community. All the institutes focus on the people in the faculty or in the schools in order to graduate a person who study tourism. But for the local community, or some of them don't know how to read and write, there is no facility to give training for such of them. So I decided to do a job training. Like, let's start working together. I was there in the beginning, doing all the technicalities of how to receive the guest, how to handle the guest, how to present the food, how to fix the room. And they were watching and helping me doing things. So there was a 6 months of shadowing. So I'm responsible of most of the operation with their help. And later on, after 6 months, and I appointed some of them who I found the capabilities that I'm looking for to run the show. And then I became the shadow. I was sitting there watching them doing the hospitality, doing the serving, doing the food, doing the whatever, for another 6 months. Once I felt that now they are ready, they don't need me to be there, I start going back and forth from Aswan to Cairo. Currently, they are running the whole show. We are open since 2 years ago. They are running the whole show, and they actually can give training to others now, because now they have a 2 years experience in the field. The nice thing about it is there is no a solid training for the local community, because each local community have its own value system, has its own tradition. So you just give a training on the technicalities, but the type of hospitality, which usually come from inside the people, it will be customized. So the hospitality in Sinai with the Bedouins will be completely different than the hospitality in Nubia, and it will be different than the hospitality in the desert with the oasis people, and it will be different from the hospitality with the farmers in Delta region. So you just need to teach them the technicalities, which usually doesn't take a lot of time, and then leave them, empower them, and they will handle the show. So this is what we did with the Nubia, and this is what we are planning to do in other regions.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to. Are there questions that people would like to ask? Nobody's put anything in the chat. I don't know whether people want to stick hands up. I'm not seeing any hands going up.
I can say
Peter. Make some comments that would be of value to people.
Please, Peter.
I think that first of all, good tourism is always based around the local. So I couldn't agree more with both Nada and with Ahmed. Secondly, it occurred to me as I was listening that it's so close, the relationship between cultural regenerative tourism, as you call it, and psychology. I work in the world of psychology, and a good psychologist, one, always tries to get the person to be himself. You're happiest when you are yourself and you don't try to be somebody else. And secondly, you can't impose your system onto someone else. You have to ask the questions to let them discover their path. And then by discovering their path, they find the right path. So I think when we speak of tourism, we're speaking on a macro level, but it's just as valid on the micro level, the individual, as on the macro level. In all cases, we're dealing with human beings, collectively or individually, and we always do best when we're true to ourselves. So, you know, I really congratulate you all on all the work that you're doing.
And from my end, adding, I'm fascinated with this session. Benjamin, thank you so much for bringing this group together. Really, I learned a lot, and I hope we can add this subject also to an interest group. Maybe Benjamin, you wanted to lead under WTN.
We can certainly discuss.
I think this would be a really good idea. It fits right in what we wanted to do. And Nada, I remember the times in Lebanon when we partnered with Audi Trade Show, and I've been every year in Beirut during that event, and hope this would happen again. Very nice memories.
I hope too.
On memory, and yes, the food is absolutely fantastic. You know, you never want to leave. So, and the same in Egypt. I have many memories. I've been all over Egypt, and it's one of actually the very first country I traveled to in the late 70s when I was a lot younger than now. So, but I don't want to rush you. Maybe Benjamin, you wanted to do a few Q&A. We have a hard stop. Usually we always have room at the end to extend. I don't have this here because we have an event at 10 o'clock. What is it, 12 minutes, so I have to stop at that point. But even if we stop early, I would love to repeat such a discussion or make it an ongoing.
Certainly. I mean, I'm conscious that we have a lot of the Mediterranean represented here. We have North Africa, we have the Eastern Mediterranean, we have Balkans, we have Italy. I mean, Severin, do you think there are any sort of patterns or differences or things that we can learn from different areas of the Mediterranean? Because we've been talking a lot about the Mediterranean recently, and are there particular opportunities in sort of education?
Yes, well, that's a very interesting topic actually, because in terms of the Mediterranean, well, hub of culture, historical culture, and also big touristic hub. And what is interesting from a social, let's say, economic perspective as well, is the impact somehow that the mobility of people is having, let's say, on certain country, the relationship between, for example, the north and the south of the Mediterranean. So looking at possibly tourism as a solution as well for some of what could be the reason for, like, for example, immigration and all the problems that there has been and there are in terms of immigrants coming from North Africa and towards the north of Europe via Italy, most of it, or via Spain, would be a great opportunity. I mean, and again, that brings back as well to what Peter was saying about the authenticity and about really kind of going and value what is really the richness of each person, because no one really would want to just get into a boat, risk their life, leave their family, and just travel to go to a foreign country if it wasn't out of complete desperation. And from the moment in which solutions are given, and actually it's shown as well via education, but via programs of entrepreneurship, via training, but via all of this, they are it's all projects that can be done, like in the example that Ahmed made of Econubia. They need to be very local and very targeted, but the impact that can have, even just as an example, could be really, really important. And to me, in terms of seeing tourism as a way to value the diversity, also truly, let's say, help people in terms of helping the way that people see themselves and the relationship with others based on respect. It could be a great opportunity. I think there is a lot in terms of the Regenerating Tourism project. The first kind of target that I have at the moment is Europe. So that's certainly the main target.
So thank you so much. I'm conscious of time and moving on to the next session. I think that what I'd like to say is that for me, it is really refreshing to be talking about the future and recovery. I've spent so much time recently talking about crises, whether COVID or looking at Ebola or crisis or conflict. There is so much positive when we remember that we have all this wonderful local heritage, local distinctiveness. And if we focus on this identity and local heritage, then I think there's a real opportunity to rebuild international tourism and quickly. I want to thank the panel, Ahmed, Nada, Severin, and I'd like to thank all of you for watching, listening. There are many faces I recognize here. I wish you a wonderful evening, morning, day, or whatever is before you. I'll hand back to you, Jürgen and Peter, but thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about the future and recovery. Thank you.
And Benjamin, that's just one of the sessions I would say I wish we had more time, and we will hopefully repeat this. And thank you so much for putting this together. I wanted to thank everyone for attending today. And if you haven't joined World Tourism Network yet, please do so. We have both complimentary and paid options. You can go to wtn.travel, click on the join button, and we would love to have you and inform you about what we're doing, and more important, you should be part of what we're doing. We now have people in 124 countries, including all the countries you're from. And so it would be great to have you part of it. Also, if you wanted to look at the archive of this session and all the other sessions, you can go to worldexpo.travel. Give us a few hours to put this up. And you also find it, of course, linked from wtn.travel. And we'll be playing this session with our other sessions for the next few weeks. So you'll find it probably appearing to be live also on eTopo News, on live stream, and other channels we have access to, and on social media. Uh, uh, I wanted to again say thank you, aloha to Benjamin, and let Peter have the last word, and Benjamin, and then hopefully we see you all again very soon. Peter.
I want to thank everyone for a really fascinating session. There's an old saying that what makes an assembly line different from human beings is that an assembly line produces cars and they all come out the same. But human beings are born from an assembly line, but every one of us is different. And I think today that's really what we're speaking about. Each human being has his or her own story. Each community has his or her own story. I live in Texas, where we would say you could travel 1,000 miles and go nowhere. But the reality is each place you go is different. And today we talked about the fact that all of us are on a personal journey, a community journey, a national journey, and a world journey. And if we understand that, then we will make the world a much better place. So thank you all for a really wonderful session.